Hey, welcome back to another video, folks. Thanks for tuning in again. As always, massively appreciated. You join me from a slightly windy and grey Lion Rock today. It's forecast to rain later on, so I've come out a bit early. It's 10 o'clock, which is a bit early by my standards. But I wanted to get outside and get the video done in the outdoors. You know, Sling Mountain's great. I love it. It's super convenient. It works really well. But if I can be outdoors, I'm going to be outdoors. So I hope the wind noise isn't an issue. You'll hear the trees whistling around, like I say, but I think that adds to the atmosphere. It's quite nice, really. You might hear the birds twitter. I just saw a massive buzzard. As soon as I got the camera out, he was long gone though. Today's video, I've had a few questions about this topic, and it seems like a good time to answer it. Using guide mode for belaying, but when you set up with the rope, and we do that a lot in the UK. It's probably our default thing to do for a lot of us. I kind of think to myself sometimes, why is it our default thing to do it? This is a good example, I reckon. You might struggle to see the kit in the wall. There's a bit there, and there's a bit over there behind me. So they're quite wide apart, so with a really long sling you probably could do something. As soon as you had a third bit though, which we'll mention in a bit, it would just become a bit of a pain unless you've got a really long cordlette. And often I just think we don't really need them because we've got all this rope on us. We can do that for the setups instead of carrying a cordlette, so I'm not personally a fan of that kind of thing. But then it does leave us the issue of, okay, we want to use our belay plating guide mode. How do we do that if we haven't set up with a sling or a cordlette? We've got to create a master point, and it might seem like this is going to be more complicated than just doing an overhand in a sling kind of thing, but thankfully it isn't. It's pretty simple, so let's crack on with it. I've placed my 2 bits of gear. I've deemed that 2 bits is enough in this case. Put the screw gates on them already. Keep it belt and braces today. I've done them up straight away. They're out of reach in this setup, so I don't want to go back to them, right? So it's going to be the same with this one. I'm going to go over there. I'm still on belay down the bottom. I haven't shouted safe or anything yet because I'm not safe at all. And then I get back down to wherever I want to belay from. And now normally with this setup, out of reach anchors, you probably do a couple of clove hitches onto a big HMS here. But we're not going to do that today because we're wanting to use guide mode. So I'm going to give myself a bit more slack on this, okay, just an armful or so, and then I'm going to bring all these together like that and do a big overhand to equalize them, make them independent and create an angle. Okay, so give yourself enough of a bite of rope to do it comfortably so you're not fighting it through, and then that's it, simple as that. You've tied yourself an overhand. Because of this setup with me and 2 anchors, you're going to have 3 loops, 1, 2, 3. That means you're going to have 6 strands coming out the back. It's quite easy to miss one of those strands and only have 5 strands coming out the back. That means one of these loops won't be fixed. So that could be a bit of an issue, couldn't it? Because one would be slipping, and if you put your plate on that or something, you may fell off. Obviously not good. So do double check that coming out the back here of this particular spot, there's 6, 2, 4, 6, we're winning. You know, I do love neat knots, but this is such a big bulky knot. Yeah, I'm going to get it neat and snugged up and everything, but you know, there is a crossing of strands here and there, and I'm just not too stressed about it. It's not too bad, but it's not quite as textbook as normal. I'm just not really that worried when it's such a big mass of strands. That'll do, okay. Could I shout safe at this point? Well, I'm coming off the back of that knot, and I'm not always the biggest fan of that, so could we do anything extra? Yes, we could. Would I do anything extra? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Let's skip a step ahead, and I'm just going to clip it through all 3. You've got some choices here as to whether you clip 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, whatever, but just for now, let's just clip all 3. Do that up. So that's kind of ready to be loaded in a second. Now, for me, that kind of adds an extra level because that can't get pulled through there realistically, even if it was to invert. The chances of that rolling open pretty flipping minimal. So I'm not super stressed about coming off the back of this knot really, but for full-on belt and braces, what can you do? Well, you can just clove hitch into it as normal. If I was standing here snug on it, I might not bother, but there is a bit of slack here, so we can take in that slack with our standard sort of clove hitch, and then put myself into 1, 2 or 3, whatever you want to do. Like I say, choices. Spin it round so it's in the wide end, so it's nice and textbook again. Get myself snug on it. A bit of adjustment there. Pull that one, there we go. So now I can be nice and tight on that, make sure he's done up, we're good. Now I'd shout safe, okay? I've got my belay plate on here. It's kind of facing that bit, so I might swap it over to have it the other way, just so it's running in a bit of space like that, but then the carabiner's banging into here. So that, for me, is kind of a reason to perhaps clip into one or two of these. Let's just put it into two, and then with your clove hitch one for your own personal safety, maybe have that in the other. All these loops are perfectly safe just as a single one, aren't they? I do I do prefer to have something clipped into each of them, so I go for the two rather than having one spare. But again, let's just go for all sorts of things here. We could have this all ready and have that ready for my mate to clip into, so you're sort of thinking a step ahead. That's absolutely a possibility, but just to keep things clear, I won't do that for this example. Right, so that's in now. I've shouted down safe to my mate. I've taken in however much slack there is to them. I can get them on guide mode belay ready to go. Clip them in. There we go, great. Jobs are good and climb when you're ready. Up they come. When they come up, they can clip into their choices, right? Pretty simple, isn't it? I really like this method. It means you can use guide mode whether you've got anchors close together and you've set up with a sling, or if you've used the rope like this. So that's method one for out of reach anchors. What would you do though if you had 3 anchors? I'm not even going to bother showing you because it's exactly the same. You end up with a bigger knot because there's going to be more strands, isn't there, involved? You're going to have, think about it, 1 extra loop, aren't you? And you're going to have more strands coming out the back, so make sure you check for that as well. It's going to be a bigger knot. It's going to be pretty bulky, right? But the difference is, that's all there is. It's the same principle, okay? What about if you're using half ropes? Okay, well, you could just ignore 1 half rope and just use 1 half rope to do exactly this, right? That's one method, isn't it? You could bring 1 half rope to one side, 1 half rope to the other, and you're still just going to tie a big knot around both ropes and end up with the very similar thing, is that you're going to have 2 strands going up there. You can clove hitch with 1, you can clove hitch with 2, choices. No different though. Okay, so out of reach anchors, have a play with that, and then try it with 3 anchors, try it with half ropes, and just have a play with it. Principles are the same, hence I'm not going to bother showing you. It's great to go and investigate these things yourself, isn't it? What I want to do is show you one more thing for perhaps in reach anchors with the rope, and just one method for setting up guide mode on that as well. So slight angle change for this one, and remember this time we're setting up in reach anchors with the rope, okay, and still belaying in guide mode. Weather's changing a little bit, hopefully the noise is still low enough. It definitely feels like it's getting a bit wild out here. What we need to do then is treat this as normal in reach anchors to start with. So I've got the anchor, the same one as before, behind me, and I'm just going to put a clove hitch into that, okay, same as every other time we're setting up the rope for in reach anchors really, by default. Okay, any adjustment that needs doing, do that now. Done my carabiner up, I'm snug on it. Actually I'm not quite snug enough, so let's do it properly. There we go. And then I've got my second anchor over here. We normally leave a little isolation loop in there so these 2 anchors aren't affecting each other, and we're going to do exactly the same today with this setup. Okay, so my clove hitch goes into there. Can't shout down safe yet, can I? Because I'm only actually dangling on this one. That one's not really doing anything quite yet in a proper belay setup. So I'm going to do my clove hitch into here. Get my big boa, because that's like my default one for putting clove hitches into, even though it's only 1 clove hitch. Just I may as well use it. Get him snugged up, because I'm not doing anything about guide mode yet. I'm just getting myself safe still. Okay, so now I am safe. So I could shout down to my mate that I'm safe. Actually, I'm just going to do one more little bit. This rope that's here, what I want to do is tie a master point in it. So it's just a little overhand. Angle there is about just a fraction under 90 degrees. That's cool. Hopefully you can see that okay. Sort of sits there, but I'm going to put it underneath because it's weighting that way a bit more. But basically that sits there as a new master point. It's equalised, it's independent, and it's got some angle, okay? Belay plate goes into that as per usual. Okay, do that up. I'll shout it down safe to our mate. now, at some point, I think it was now, I just like to get that done as a bit of a time perception thing, okay? If I shout safe and then nothing really happens, they're like, oh, what's going on up there? If I finish everything off, get that done, it's not actually any quicker, but it seems quicker. It's probably more of a work thing than a normal climbing thing. But anyway, I'm taking in now, I get them on belay, clip them into there, okay, and away we go. They can climb on up. When they get to me, great. We've got a nice master point for them to clip into already, haven't we? So it's quite a neat way of doing it, and it's making the most out of this little isolation loop going in there. So I really like that one. Could you do this with a sling because it's in reach? Perhaps, but maybe you've used them all. Maybe they are a bit too wide and you've only got short slings left. And we've got loads of rope on us, so I like this way of doing it. What would you do if you've got a third anchor? Well, there's choices. You can do something similar, or you could perhaps join two of them with a sling if you've got a sling, if they're close together, and then do this, treating that two as one, if that makes sense. So there's always options, but I say, it's the same principles. Go and have a play with it. I'm a big fan of that you kind of, hopefully you're watching these videos and then go and practicing either on the crag or on your own sling mountain or whatever it might be. But there you go, I hope that's been useful. In reach and out of reach anchors, creating a master point to use your belay plate in guide mode. Usual caveats apply. I'll put a link up there to the previous video I've done on how to use guide plates and stuff, just in a regular sense, the mechanics of this little part of the setup. Please do fire away with any questions, always happy to answer as best I can. Find us on Insta, find us on Facebook. I put some different stuff on there, so that might be of interest, and you can keep up to date with what's going on and what I'm climbing and what I'm falling off and all that kind of thing as well. Click that like button, smash the subscribe button, it's massively appreciated. We've just gone over 1,500 subscribers. I never thought that would happen in a month of Sundays. Massively appreciated. Thank you very much for tuning in all the time. Once again, hope you enjoyed the video. More videos coming up very soon.